It's my pleasure to be with you in this education financing session of the Global Education Meeting. Even before the pandemic, we were already in a learning crisis, but now we are living a crisis within a crisis. In many countries, school closures were a central element of the pandemic response. The average closure for the Middle East and North Africa, South Asia, and Latin America was close to 250 days, or more than an entire school year. And most children, perhaps, except maybe for the well off, had no other learning options. The pandemic response came at a huge cost for learning losses. The World Bank initially estimated that school closures would lead to 7 million primary school students dropping out. We also estimated that in lower and middle income countries, the share of 10-year-olds in learning poverty could increase from 53 to 63%. Unfortunately, more recent figures put that figure closer to 70%, as school closures have lasted much longer, given the lockdowns that countries have had to extend because of second and third wave of the coronavirus. These projections of learning losses are now being confirmed in some countries where data is becoming available. For example, school closures of 12 months in Karnataka, India led to 12 months of foregone learning. School closures in Sao Paulo, Brazil led students to learn only 26% of what they would have learned by going physically to class. And in addition to learning losses, children worldwide are experiencing significant health challenges, such as increased depression, anxiety, and malnutrition. So, the moment to act is now. A strong national and global response is essential to reverse these losses that could lead to a lost generation. A number of key actions are needed, first of all, at the national level. First and foremost, we need to get all children and youth back to school, and an aggressive campaign is needed to ensure all children and youth are back to school, especially girls. Second, schools need to help students recoup lost and missed learning. That requires supporting children that are coming back to school with very different levels of learning. This will be a massive challenge for teachers, so it is critical to expand our work with governments to support them. Third, there is also a window of opportunity to increase the effectiveness of education through technology and hybrid learning models that many countries invested in during the pandemic. There is opportunity for cross country learning in that regard. Meeting these massive challenges will need large resources, and governments need to prioritize and add their spending on education to meet these challenges. However, governments are at the same time dealing with immediate economic and health crisis needs caused by the pandemic. However, education is in crisis, and we cannot lose an entire generation with dire consequences on human capital. Therefore, the budgets for education must be adjusted to meet these challenges brought about by the pandemic. Unfortunately, we are seeing the opposite. Two-thirds of low and lower middle income countries have either cut or maintained their public education budgets since the onset of the pandemic. Therefore, countries will need to increase resource mobilization. They need to wisely and efficiently use their resources, cut unproductive spending and untargeted subsidies, and invest them in areas which are critical for development, such as public education. And they should also increase the efficiency of the current education service delivery. Now more than ever, each dollar spent needs to be translated into improvement in the teaching learning process in every single classroom. And as these investments need to be sustained over time to build more effective and equitable systems, countries should cast national plans to accelerate foundational learning and identify sustainable strategies to finance them. What should the global community and international partners do? We need to redouble our efforts. We need to make sure that we collectively support the expansion of government efforts in education. The World Bank has been doing its part. The last 2 years have been record-breaking years, with US $11 billion in new financing for education. And in the new IDA round, we are prioritizing policy commitments on accelerating learning that will underpin our expansion in education financing in the poorest countries. We must all do everything we can to expand our investments in people. If we don't, the cost will be devastating. We could end up with a lost generation and with a lasting impact on society and economic growth. And I'm sure we all agree that we cannot allow that to happen.